Through storms, unshaken, unbowed. Through trials and verdicts, still standing proud. A titan in the tempest, against the raging crowd. He's got a vision for the future, gonna shout it loud. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key. Make the big switch. Power to the people. Time to teach the rich. Legal battles can't hold him. He's moving on. With plans so bold, from dusk till dawn. He's rewriting the rules. A new dawn's day. From the hands of the few to the people's way. Say goodbye to all chains, embrace the new. A financial revolution, fair and true. For the workers, the dreamers, side by side. In Trump's new era, let freedom rise. Changing the wind, it's coming fast. A new foundation built to last. Cryptocurrency's the key. Make the big switch. Power to the people. Time to ditch the rich. He's a fighter, a leader with a plan to share. A world of justice, well spread fair. Forget the old guards, the time is done. Under the banner of Trump, we all have won.
Welcome, everyone, to the Crazy Kryptonaut channel. I am Zester, and thank you guys so much for joining me this Trump day. I hope everyone is having an awesome week. I guess it's not been as crazy as last week, but it's pretty darn close to as crazy. And so we're going to jump into all of that. I know Pops, I believe, is still going pretty late. And so I imagine there's going to be some folks over there hanging out. But let's go ahead and start saying some good mornings and all of that. And we'll jump into the news. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, I'm not certain what just happened right there for half a second, but good morning, Mile High Trish. Good morning, Miss Kukla. Welcome, Crazy Chester. No, Kukla, I am, because of information that is still on the phone, I have had to move over to a new phone number for a while. I have got to get some information off of that phone. And so I've got a new phone number at this point, but I still have access to that old one. I just don't have it right now. Good morning, Johnny Guffey. Good morning, Tatis Samfords. I'm having a hard time with that one. Good morning, though, and welcome. The Step Network. Pops just finished with Andy. We were schooled. Now, what is up with Bitcoin? Well, welcome, the Step Network. And yeah, we have got so much going on right now. It's overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming, all that is going on, and we're going to check it out. I hope you're going well. I hope you're doing well. Also, Miss Kukla, good morning. Tout va bien. I think I did that better last time. Tedessa. I don't know why. I was having a hard time. I was breaking that screen name up into a lot of extra names. Good morning. Good morning, 2506. And yes, guys, please do remember the content in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes, not intended to provide financial advice. Please consult with a financial professional before making investment decisions. Thank you for making certain I get that one, Kukla. Well, hi, good morning to those I've missed. My system whacked out for a bit. Hopefully, you're not going into the same little trend that I went into there for 1 or 2 weeks. I had about a 2 week period where every electronic in my life decided it was going to take. Essentially, they were all going to have their vacation at the same time. Uh, I hope yours do not do the same. Definitely. Will do, Kukla, will do. All right, though, guys, let's go ahead and look at the markets this morning, see what all is going on. And, well, crypto markets not looking too great at this point. We had been recovering slightly on Monday and Tuesday, and I mean slightly. At this point, though, we're seeing a $66,000 Bitcoin, Ethereum back below 2,000, XRP sitting at $1.36. Solana down at 80 bucks, Doge below a dime. Entire market essentially down. We don't really, even when we go and we organize by categories, we can't even really find any subsection of the blockchain space that is doing well right now. Even when we break down the categories, smart contract platforms down 12.5%, layer one down the exact same, proof of work similar 11.9, proof of stake down even more. And we really cannot find anybody on the list. The only two here that have any green, those happen to be stable coins. And so those can be ignored. Otherwise, it is pretty universal. The entire market is taking it on the chin. Even privacy coins that had been doing well in the past, no longer doing near as well as they were, down 10.9% in the same time period. And so there is no current safe ground in the cryptocurrency space. And, well, until something major really shocks the market and until we get some answers overall on what's going on in the global financial world, this trend may continue. But we have gotten some fairly good news, fresh news coming out from the Ripple CEO, Brad CLO, Brad Garlinghouse. Compromise is in the air. Ripple CLO signals progress on crypto bill. And, well, it's all hinging on what we've already discussed. The banking industry has decided to make the Clarity Act all about yield-bearing stablecoins. And, well, that's what all the debate is currently deadlocked in. This is very, very intentional coming from the banking sector. They're trying to essentially railroad the Clarity Act through this. And because they're trying to protect their future. Banks make money by holding your money, by loaning your money out and collecting the interest off of it. And so they're very, very worried about the idea of stable coins allowing for you to actually collect the interest that the banks were previously collecting. And that's what they're making the entire debate about. And it's kind of working. And so at the meeting held on the 10th of February, attendees, including banks and crypto industry representatives, shared mixed opinions, with some describing the discussions as productive. According to reporter Eleanor Tourette, specifics of a stablecoin yield deal were also discussed, with the bank side enlisting interest prohibition principles. And so, 10th of February, just yesterday, this discussion was had on the Clarity Act. And where all of it is coming down to, all of the pushback from the banking sector is in regards to yield and interest. And so what the banks want a full prohibition on stablecoin yield. No person may provide any form of financial or non-financial consideration to a payment stablecoin holder in connection with the payment stablecoin holder's purchases, use, ownership, possession, custody, holding, or retention of a payment stablecoin. Enforcement. They want regulators to go after anyone that does it. They want anti-invasion. So essentially, they want a regulatory body that is constantly going around and making certain that no one is offering any form of yield or interest on a stable coin. No marketing of any type of promotions regarding stable coins. With 2 years after enactment, regulators are set to submit a Senate committee on banking housing in order to see essentially if it should be maintained. This is what the banks want, and this is what has literally brought the bill to a absolute standstill. It is just on this point. And this is major. Essentially, we can't let the Clarity Bill pass if it's going to provide for a prohibition on stablecoin yields. The crypto sector can't allow it. As retail investors and holders of crypto, it would massively, massively handicap us. This is a non-starter. And so that's what's brought the bill to a close. Essentially, we're not moving forward because crypto side cannot support this. Pro-crypto legislators cannot support this. Crypto cannot succeed in a world in the new financial system if it is handicapped in this form and fashion. It really, really wouldn't be able to succeed. This would ensure that the banks get to maintain their monopoly over the financial system. And so that's why it's such a serious point. The banks at this point do not seem to be willing to bend. Maybe there is something else that the banks are hoping for. Maybe there is some kind of compromise. This could easily be one of those type of negotiating tactics where you get everybody all in a fuss, all in a worry about this, and then you ask for what you really want. And well, it just seems like such a trivial matter in comparison to what you were talking about that they just give it to you. Maybe this is some art of the deal style negotiating coming from the banking sector. But in all honesty, it may just be face value. The banks don't know how they're going to stay open if they're not able to essentially collect all the interest off of all Americans' money all the time. And so this is going to be very much the linchpin issue for getting the Clarity Act passed. There were some very, very good statements. I think some very well formulated statements that have come out from the crypto side in regards to this. A few different really good ones, and in particular, Mike Belshie here in regards to this entire debate. And so this would be a BitGo founder. He said both sides should stop relitigating Genius. What he means by that is the Genius Act that already passed back in 2025. Remember, it was the Genius Stablecoin Act, providing for the regulatory framework for stablecoins, how they work, etc. And all he's saying is this is absolutely intentionally being done to railroad this discussion because you're not even having the conversation over the right legislation. Stablecoin frameworks and stablecoin yields would need to be a part of the Genius Act, and says if you don't like Genius, amend it. Market structure has nothing to do with yield on stablecoins and must not be delayed further. Get clarity. Done. That is a very, very good point that he is making. In regards to this stablecoin yields, the framework was already provided, and the framework already allowed for the legalization of stablecoin yields through the Genius Act. And so, in all honesty, this really is just a show from the banking sector. But with midterms coming up, with it being this time and everything going on in the world, the banks could succeed if they manage to delay this long enough, just because everybody's going to be far more concerned with election season. Trump's going to lose attention over it. I mean, we're already hearing about general worries all over the planet that U.S. politics are going to change during the midterm cycle. So that's where everything currently sits at, unfortunately, on the Clarity Act. And the reason I brought it up right after we looked through the market is because we are in very much a crypto winter cycle. How long that lasts? Well, that's been a little bit different in the past, but typically it's been over a year long. Now, at this point, hindsight 2020, you could easily argue that we have been in some kind of new odd form of a crypto winter for the past year or so. And what's typically brought us out of one of these cycles has either been some kind of massive shock to the entire system, or exhaustion. Essentially, once all the leverage, all of the fake money, all of the BS has been removed from the hype cycle, we've gotten back down to a very solid price floor, then we can start rebounding. But I think in this new crypto world that we live in, where crypto is no longer this offshoot market, this, parallel style economy where it's really starting to merge into the traditional financial system, I think that we're looking for something like the Clarity Act passing. That those are the type of catalyzing events that I think can turn this market back around. Otherwise, I think we're just going to have to essentially ignore the market until it capitulates. But something like something like the Clarity Act passing could easily right this ship. And that's where a lot of people seem to be pinning their major hopes at this point in time. For a quick recovery in the crypto market, the best answer to a very fast recovery is the passage of the Clarity Act without any prohibition on yield coins, on yield through stable coins. That's going to be the fastest way to turn this thing around. All right, though, let's jump back to answering some questions and then we'll talk more about it. Thiago, do you believe crypto should be used as a currency and not an investment? That's a great question, Thiago, and I think that answering that is a very important part of 2026 because, Thiago, I believe that there are different types of cryptocurrencies. And so, Thiago, a stablecoin, USDT, USDC, that is just a digital dollar. Very much so, that intended purpose would be to be used as currency. We also have tokenized gold in the form of Pax Gold or XAUT from Tether. We've got so many different applications of blockchain technology. In some of them, Thiago, they're designed to be utilized as a currency. In others, Thiago, they're not. And so something that you're going to start seeing more and more of is you're going to start seeing certain cryptocurrencies that operate far more like a share of stock, in which case you're really holding a portion of ownership over a certain business, over an entity, over software, whatever that may be. And so that, I would say, Thiago, that fits the definition of an investment. Whereas I would then look over and say, okay, I'm putting money into, say, a stable coin. Well, that is in many ways, its best case or its usage is as a currency, as a medium of exchange. And so I believe that this is going to be the year, Thiago, where we start to see a breakdown of the different sectors of cryptocurrency. And the best way of showing that right now, because it's already happening, it's been happening, come to something like a CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap and break it down by categories. Now you start to see the general scope of blockchain technology. Everyone has been calling blockchain technology crypto. That is really not true. Cryptocurrency is an application of blockchain technology. It's just an application. The technology could be applied in a variety of different places in a variety of different ways. And so we have all kinds of different cryptos. We've got stable coins. They're going to fit into that category of being a form of currency. We have got perpetuals. Obviously, that's going to be fitting into the financial instrument space. We have real world assets. So these are tokenized real world assets, things like gold or debt or etc. We've got governance cryptocurrencies. These cryptocurrencies provide you a vote inside of that ecosystem, decentralized autonomous organizations. And so I think that's where we're going. I do believe, Thiago, that people need to start having that understanding when they purchase a specific crypto. Make certain you understand when you're buying a crypto what it's used for. What am I going to do with this? Why are people going to want to pay me more for this than I paid for it? And ultimately, when you start to look at cryptocurrencies like corporations and you start to judge them in the same way that you would judge a business, you would say, are you profitable? Do you have customers? What's your overall revenue? How many users do you have? All of those things would be how you would judge a company. That is how we need to start judging cryptos. You need to judge every single cryptocurrency separately and in that light. What's it doing? Is it doing that? Is it succeeding? Is it growing? And then you'll start to see that in the near future, you're going to see tokenized stocks and tokenized shares come into the space. And we are already seeing that. Remember that NASDAQ invested massive amounts of money into Gemini cryptocurrency exchange. The stock market intends on becoming tokenized. It'll be a 24/7, 365 days a year market. Good morning, Franco. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, GG. Oh, yep, Franco. Just playing the waiting game, just like everyone else. Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like we are in such an odd place in the world right now with everything going on, and it's difficult to stay grounded in reality during all of it because we're just getting hit from so many sides. I'm tired of waiting, and I'm tired of guessing what the next insane thing is going to be each week. I want a break. We need a vacation. Onyx Systems. Hey, Zester, you should be the first to create a crypto wallet to use for spending that intelligently picks tokens to spend based on USD impact. Onyx Systems. Well, what's up? And there are some services now that are doing things very similar to that, Onyx, where essentially it's trying to find the cheapest way of getting from point A to point B. Onyx Systems crypto wallets are a very, very, very man, I don't know why the word is really the supply exceeds the demand. I have a feeling in the coming years, the amount of crypto wallets that are like app-based, the ones that you keep on your phones and things like that, I have a feeling that we are going to see a huge thinning of the herd on that side because software crypto wallets are incredibly hard to monetize. And they're quite expensive to actually run, and they have huge liability concerns. But Onyx Systems, I would love to. As soon as all of this stuff is done, I would love to start creating a all-in-one wallet. And what I mean by that is a wallet that is pre-designed or preset, essentially, to be ready for the inclusion of tokenized real-world assets. Essentially, a wallet that is already preset and ready for the point in time where you are not just maintaining a portfolio of cryptos in terms of that wallet, you're really managing to actually maintain everything. The deed to your house that's tokenized, the title to your car that's tokenized, the 50 ounces of gold that are tokenized, the 1,000 ounces of silver that are tokenized, and your XRP and your Bitcoin, and all of those things sitting in the same place. That absolutely, that's one that I want the funding to get into, because I think that is going to be what we're looking at in the near future. They're going to want to keep it all separate, but we're going to have the capability of being able to do that where we really couldn't. Yeah, Onyx Systems, great minds think alike. That was my idea. Yeah. Well, let's work together on that one as soon as we've got some funding. A Swiss Army wallet, absolutely, because yeah, I think it is. That's going to be very, very important, and it's going to be a simplicity for folks, and not having to keep, Wells Fargo is going to be maintaining my fiat. My exchange is going to be Coinbase. My Ledger wallet is going to be holding my XRP, and this is going to be over here, and that's going to be over here, and that's going to be over here. People are not going to want, that's going to get to be a serious pain when we start to look to the new financial system and everything is tokenized. That's going to be a huge pain. Franco, 70 million XRP wallets, 40% only have less than 100 XRP. Franco, there's a huge gap on XRP side. There are a group of folks that have a ton. There are a buttload of wallets that are all sub 100, and then there's that middle class of XRP holders, Franco. But the great sign on that side, Franco, is that the amount of XRP wallets just keeps on growing. More and more wallets that have XRP in them and that are holding it. Franco, I'm always buying the dip, but the funny thing is the dip keeps on falling. LOL. Yep, Franco, absolutely. Oh, that's always the joke. If everybody wants to know the best time to buy, it'll be right after I buy or something like that. Essentially, it always feels that way. You buy, the price collapses. You sell, the price skyrockets up. I've known a few people that it was always a pretty safe bet. For some reason, their lucky rabbit's foot was just not working. But it feels that way to me too, Frank. That's why I just don't sell anymore. I do not sell unless everybody is screaming that it's going to the moon. That is when I sell. And I never sell much, but I sell some so that I always am profiting off of the market cycle, so that I have stable coins to put back in. But yeah, the easiest way during things like this is just to go ahead, throw in that dollar cost average. I'm going to buy $50 a week or $50 or a month or whatever that number is for each person, and I'm just not going to look at it. It seems silly. It doesn't feel like you're making a lot of progress, but if you just ignore it and do it, it works. It absolutely works. 100%. Yep, Frank. I feel like that's how it works for me, at least. I'm a hoarder. Yep. I can be the same way with crypto, and I also can be very attached to certain cryptocurrencies. All right, blessed beyond measure. Good morning, Zester. Unless everybody is screaming that it's going to the moon, is it okay to hold crypto coins on Coinbase? Well, welcome, and good morning to you, blessed beyond measure. And I keep crypto on Coinbase. I don't worry about it, but I don't keep a lot. And I think that's where it really needs to be understood. What I highly recommend that you keep on Coinbase is crypto that you intend to trade with. And so if you're thinking, blessed beyond measure, that, hey, in the next week or so, I would like to exchange that crypto for another crypto, or I'd like to keep $100 in stable coins in Coinbase because I'm going to make a purchase of crypto soon. Keep it in Coinbase. Yes, Mile High Trish, excellent way of putting it. Coinbase is a tool. Centralized exchanges are tools, and that's the best way to view them. I'm going to Coinbase because I need to do this. I need to switch from this crypto to this crypto, or I need to switch from this crypto to fiat because I need to send some money to my bank account because, my tire popped or something. that is when money is sitting in Coinbase. Money's sitting in Coinbase because it has something to do soon. You can view it also as a wallet, the wallet or purse that you would walk around on a day-to-day basis versus the money you would keep inside of the gun safe. You don't walk around with your life savings. You don't walk around with more money than you plan on spending that day. And so I highly recommend that you have a hardware wallet where that is where you're storing that gun safe money, that long-term money. It doesn't have any plan on doing anything soon. You need to get that over to a wallet that you are the custodian of. But you don't need to panic because crypto is on a centralized exchange like Coinbase. It is a publicly traded company. I do not worry that I am going to lose it because Coinbase is going to take it. I don't worry about that. What I worry about is somebody hacks my access. They manage to access my Coinbase account. Okay, that's going to be a Zach problem. Or say Coinbase has a massive technical issue and I can't access my crypto for a week. Well, what happens if I needed that money during that week? Those are the type of things I worry about with being on an exchange. It's, am I going to always have immediate access to my money? And is it the safest place that I could have it? And ultimately, it's not an unsafe place, but it's not the safest place. So whenever you hit that dollar value and that's different for everybody. That number could be $100 for one person. It could be $10,000 for the other person. But whatever that dollar figure is, when you see the amount of money sitting in a centralized exchange account and you go, this would really suck to lose, or this would really suck to not have access to for a while, then you have made it to that point where you need to be getting that crypto over to a hardware wallet, something you control. But yes, absolutely. Don't worry. Have exchange accounts. I have one at essentially every exchange in the US. I have an account with them. Why? I don't use most of them, but I always have it because it's an extra tool. It doesn't do any harm to me. I don't have to pay anything. And if Coinbase has an issue, well, I have Kraken, I have Gemini, I have crypto.com. Gives you more outlets, more options. At this point, I would say I really, really like Gemini, though, at this point in time. I'm a very, very big fan of the Gemini exchange. I have been extremely, extremely happy with Gemini at this point. So, Coinbase might lose its position in terms of that. I may start having Gemini be my numero uno when it comes down to fiat to crypto or crypto to fiat. Franco, I don't like Coinbase. I use Uphold because I can pull off the exchange immediately. Hey, absolutely, Frank. And that is another thing that's important. You've got to remember with these exchanges, depending upon how you're buying it, it's going to change things like that. So, for example, if you are sending money from a bank account to Coinbase, Coinbase is going to immediately let you buy crypto with that money. But Coinbase is not going to let you leave the Coinbase exchange with that money until they can ensure that you're not going to contest that bank transfer. And so, in that situation, yes, you got to immediately buy crypto with those dollars, but you weren't able to immediately remove that crypto to your hardware wallet. Now, if you bought with a debit or credit card, you would be able to immediately withdraw to your hardware wallet. And so those are things to consider. The lowest fees possible are always going to be on bank to exchange transfers. Exchanging $500, sending $500 from Wells Fargo to your Coinbase account is going to have zero fees, and you're going to be able to start buying cryptos and etc. You will pay fees when you buy the crypto, but you're not going to have paid essentially any type of money transfer fee. When you pay with a credit or debit card, these are considered very high risk transactions. which means if you buy, say, $100 of crypto on a credit card, you're actually only going to get about $90 of crypto in your wallet. It's easy, it's fast, but you're paying for that. You're paying more for that simplicity. And so just keep those things in mind. I'm very much the person where I'm a penny pincher. And so I make certain that I try to always plan ahead on having money transferred over. Yeah, I try to. Oh, Judy Barbara. Hi, cutie pie. Hey there, Judy. Thank you so much for joining us today. Blessed beyond measure. I'm just now dipping my toe in the water. Have no idea what I'm doing yet. Well, you are in the perfect place, blessed beyond measure. And just as a heads up, this is always, always, always my number one recommendation. When you are first getting into crypto, go slow. Buy $10 of crypto, set up an exchange account, set up a wallet, transfer it around. When you are first getting started, put an amount of money in and just mentally lose that money. You can learn how to do everything in crypto with $10. If you can send a $1 transaction, you can send $1 million transaction. It all works exactly the same. And so when you're getting started like that, blessed beyond, you're going to need an exchange. So look at Gemini and Coinbase and Kraken and those. You're going to need one of those, and then just start slow. And I promise you that is going to lead you down the safest path that you possibly can go on in this journey. The biggest thing that gets folks is they come straight in. We don't really learn much about it. Everybody's just in that hype phase, and they throw $10,000 onto some crypto, and then they're like, I'll figure it out after. Please figure it out before. Because then the cost of learning is going to be very, very, very low. The cost of learning, if you go in fast, can be very, very high. But we're happy to have you in here in the perfect place, blessed beyond measure. We will help out. Franco, that tells me Coinbase doesn't trust me. And if that's the case, I'll take my business elsewhere. Hey, Franco, I get it. I get it. Yeah. Maybe they will have, more different things that you can do, more information you can give them at some point in time. But yeah, they are kind of saying, hey, we're worried that you might contest this transfer. Hey there. Good morning, RK. All right, let's jump back to some of our articles, guys. And in particular, let's look at this one. Crypto's age of speculation may be over, says Galaxy CEO Mike Novogratz. Bitcoin down more than 21% so far this year, nearly 50% down from its peak back in October of 2025. Galaxy CEO Mike Novogratz says crypto's age of speculation is ending, where investors expect outsized returns. It's going to be real-world assets with much lower returns, he told CNBC's Mackenzie Sigalos at the CNBC Digital Finance Forum on Tuesday. And, well, we are starting to really get to that point in time. Cryptocurrency is becoming very much a part of the mainstream. It's going to become just a regular part of the financial system. It's going to continue to grow. But I think that in one degree, I do believe there are still massive returns that are coming. But I think he is very, very correct in that it is no longer going to be massive returns on account of blind speculation. Speculation is really been the mode of the market because a lot of this is future technology. People are speculating on future returns on the companies and the blockchains and the ecosystems that are going to dominate the future financial system. That is really no longer the case. Now you are investing in and buying cryptos that are changing the financial space, that have gotten to that point and are becoming a regulated and normal thing. And so I do believe that this is correct. The age of speculation is, I don't believe, entirely over. Speculators are always going to speculate. It's not going to end entirely, but the massive age of universal speculation in the market is coming to an end. And I do believe it's going to be replaced by a very, very traditional financial perspective. People are going to start viewing cryptos like companies. And in that regard, we're going to start looking at the fundamentals behind the spreadsheets, not the how much money might they make at some point in time. We're going to start judging the value of cryptocurrency based off of how successful that company is at that exact point in time. That's something that we talked about. That's in the 2026 prediction video that I put out. We're going to see it happen this year, where you are going to start seeing cryptocurrencies are going to start providing quarterly reports. Crypto companies are going to start acting far more like traditional publicly traded corporations. It's happening in front of our very eyes. And so in that regard, I would have to agree with Mike Novogratz here. The age of speculation is coming to a close, at least this cycle of speculation. And so throughout its history, Bitcoin and other cryptos have been subject to significant price fluctuations, whether that's due to macro factors impacting all asset classes or specifically crypto winners that are directly tied to the industry. Absolutely, we've seen that. Remember the COVID panic. Bitcoin collapsed down to, I think on some exchanges, $6,000 per Bitcoin during the COVID crash. At that point in time, stock market and everything else followed suit. Very much tied to the overall market in that fashion. But with crypto-friendly Trump administration, expectations of market structure bill, aka the Clarity Act, many onlookers expected another bull run in digital assets to start at the beginning of 2026. However, it has been the exact opposite. Down more than 21% so far just since the beginning of the year. And so, what is driving this latest decline? According to Mike Novogratz, there was a breakdown in trust following November 2022 during the collapse of FTX. This time, he says there is no smoking gun. You look around like, what happened? We keep hearing this same sentiment, guys. We looked at this one on Friday where we had CEOs and we had market analysts going, it just doesn't matter. There is no bad news for cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is getting everything it wants, maybe not as fast as it wants it, but everything it wants. And the price is just going to keep going down. And we've been watching this for a while. All of us XRP holders, I mean, this has really been the normalcy of 5, 6, 7 years. Good news comes out, price stays exactly where it's currently sitting. Sometimes great news comes out and the price goes down. Ultimately, this seems to be a very widely held disbelief amongst folks in the crypto space. And it's got to be because we are moving into this new phase of cryptocurrency. And so we're going to need to see things like the Clarity Act pass. We may even just need time. We need to see how low can it go. At what point do Bitcoin holders say, I don't care, I'm not selling. Price can keep dropping, I'm not selling. At what point do XRP holders hit that point where it just doesn't matter? People aren't going to sell anymore. In the past, we have had certain crypto winners that we have only gotten out of at the point of full capitulation. The market capitulated. Holders just said, all right, we're not doing it. We will not sell. We are willing to watch it go to zero. And that has turned markets around in the past. In this situation, I think the Clarity Act is the fastest way to turn this thing. Franco Zester, when do you think or heard that the Clarity Act may pass? No clarity, no RV. Franco, I think there are a few bills that fit into that necessity. We need these things to pass in order to progress to the new system. The Clarity Act is part of it. And so, absolutely, Frank, I am of the strong belief that until some of these bills pass, we cannot move to the new financial system. We can't do it. The new system won't be ready, essentially, until these things are done. And so, Frank, I'm very worried on the Clarity Act remaining bogged down because of this yield debate. Very, very concerned about it remaining held back because of this yield debate. And in particular, the banking lobbies absolutely pushing the heck out of stable coins cannot be allowed to provide yield or interest to holders or to users of them, because the banks argue that it would essentially destabilize the entire US financial system. That's what the banks are saying. The banks are saying essentially we're all going to go bankrupt, and there is no support for the US dollar if you provide for stable coins giving these types of interest yields, because there's going to be a rush on the banks. That's what the banks are. The banks are arguing and essentially threatening us with the Great Depression 2.0. They're saying that if you allow for stable coins to provide yield returns or interest, that it's going to result in a rush on the banks. The banks are not going to have enough money, and the U.S. financial system is going to collapse. That is the degree of severity that these banking lobbies are throwing out right now, and it's scaring lawmakers. It is scaring senators into a point of going, well, what if they're right? And so, should this debate be being had during the Clarity Act? No. As we saw, and as I think BitGo said best, BitGo's Mike Belsch, both sides need to stop relitigating the Genius Act. That battle was fought. If you don't like Genius, amend it. Market structure has nothing to do with yield on stablecoins and must not be delayed further. Get clarity done. Absolutely, I am in full agreement here. The Genius Stablecoin Act already was the opportunity for the banking lobby to have their little freak out session. They did not, and now they're having their freak out over the Clarity Act, and it really just doesn't make sense. Frank, I believe that we could see a breakthrough. I still think there's a strong chance that we see the Clarity Act passed and on Trump's desk in the first quarter of this year. Still think there's a very high likelihood. If it does not happen in the first quarter, I am very worried. Because at that point, I'm afraid that the midterm election cycle is going to take over, and everything's going to be in flux. And so I remain optimistic, Frank, that it can pass in the first quarter. XRP and Ripple Labs are saying that compromises, they've been a part of all of these meetings and these hearings. They say that things are going well. They think that it's a possibility. And so I'm going to remain optimistic on that front. I still think we can get it in the first quarter. If we don't get it in the first quarter, I'm going to start getting a little bit more worried about the timeline. I don't think, though, Frank, that they really can wait. I think that this is a can that cannot be kicked but so far. And I think we're already starting to get to the red line where they cannot continue to kick this can. The entire financial plan of the administration appears to be contingent on some of these things passing. And so I think that we're going to see the banks and the lobbies shut up sometime in February or March, and we're going to see this thing on Trump's desk. We just have to make certain that it does not get to Trump's desk with a prohibition on yield and interest for stablecoins. That would be a not a dagger in the back. That would be that would be a great sword in the back. Yeah, that's William Wallace levels of backstabbing, and it would massively cripple the crypto sector, and it would honestly put into jeopardy a lot of the new financial system, at least in terms of the timeline. So it is very important. We cannot have that Clarity Act passed with a prohibition on stablecoins. We cannot advance to the next bills. We cannot advance to the revaluation of gold through the Bitcoin Act until the Clarity Act passes. And so this is a domino that has to fall. This domino has to fall. If it doesn't fall, then it's got to come back in a new name, and it's got to replace that domino, and that domino has to fall. And so it is. It is extremely important in that regard. Franco, there's 24,000 millionaires in the U.S. Just wait till the RV. I'm not worried about gains on stable coins. Just get this done. It's a valid point. I'd be happy with just having. I'd be more than happy with just having the massive amounts of wealth and be far less concerned about the yield interest. But I believe that these things are far more tied together than that. Ultimately, the banks maintaining that power places into jeopardy the very idea of being able to reset the economy. I don't know. That's an interesting one to think about, though, Frank. It's an interesting one to think about, and maybe there's an entire strategy where the organization of said cart and said horse could be switched. Maybe there is. Frank, you are correct. Gold, silver, it all moves by crypto. Hey, it is. I mean, I really don't think that you can see the full valuation of gold and silver until you start to see the full tokenization of gold and silver. All of these things are so intertwined. It makes the whole mythological 4D, 5D chess type of strategy seem simple, hyper simple, because there are so many things tied together that are affecting each other in this space. Crypto is affecting precious metals. Precious metals are affecting fiat and the global economy. Everything is affecting each other in very, very, very unexpected ways. It is the beginning of a new financial system. Economists, financial advisors, everybody is going to have to throw out the book, and we're going to have to start writing new books. Hey, Epicenter, Deborah. Good morning, Deborah. I hope you're having a blessed day as well. All right. Don't have too many other articles this morning. I do have a speculative one from the Atlantic. The Atlantic, this is just this was a hit piece. The Atlantic has got Trump derangement syndrome to such an insane degree that they need to go ahead and be admitted, but it does draw in, and there are a lot of folks in the cryptocurrency space that do say, well, look at it. We have essentially wiped out at this point all of the gains that occurred since Trump came into office. And that is true. The market at this point is now back to essentially pre-Trump levels. And that's where it's sitting. And so there are a lot of folks in the cryptocurrency space that are wanting for Trump to start putting more pressure on the Senate and on lawmakers to get the Clarity Act passed. I think that is going to be a high priority for Trump in the coming months, because we know how Trump is when it comes to these financial indicators. He takes them very seriously. He takes the stock market and the Dow Jones very, very seriously. I have a feeling we're going to get some Trump pressure coming in order to get the Clarity Act passed. Silver, though, I know everybody was listening along with Andy earlier. I wish I got to listen to more of him this morning because it seemed like it was a super, super interesting one. But silver appears to have somewhat stabilized, at least from all the fluctuations that were occurring in the past week, sitting at 84.94. Gold, man, $5,100. I am very, very excited. The reason I have these up, I am so excited, and I keep hearing more and more, and I'm getting asked more and more questions from folks that are the gold and silver bugs about how tokenization is going to work. I'm very, very excited. I do. We've got so much to look forward to, guys. The world is absolute insanity right now, but everything is coming together. Everything is not in the ways that I think many of us expected it, but we continue to progress forward towards the new financial system, at least on the cryptocurrency side. Good progress is being made. We just really need the Clarity Act to pass, and we really need people to hold lawmakers accountable on this one, because lawmakers that do end up neglecting this bill are seriously handicapping the United States going into the future. We don't have time. We cannot be behind the 8 ball on this one. If we want the United States to genuinely be running the new financial system, to be at the helm, we have got to be at the forefront of this technology. It is how the system runs. And so, fingers crossed on Clarity Act. Apparently, conversations and debates continue. This thing could literally, the dam could break this week, or it could be months away. And so, I remain very, very optimistic on it. Every once in a while as well, just this might be fun real quick just to show y'all. Every once in a while, I do like to go over and check what the prediction markets are saying on the Clarity Act. I have always found this, oh man, come on, Kalshi. I don't want to log in. I just want to see the markets real quick. Okay. Clarity Act. All right. Where are the prediction markets currently at on will crypto market structure legislation become law? This is before June. Currently, prediction markets have turned, well, negative on before May. We're only seeing 33% are putting their money behind the idea of the Clarity Act passing before May. 46% throwing behind that it'll pass before June, 75% that it will pass before the end of the year. I always find these prediction markets to be interesting because these are people putting money on the line. And you're able to go back through and you're able to see the historic numbers on this one. And something that you will notice is that back just not all that long ago, percentage chances that it was going to pass faster were actually substantially higher at certain points, all the way back in 2025. Percentages were sitting far, far higher. And so prediction markets continue to drop the chance in their belief that this bill is going to pass soon. And unfortunately, prediction markets are turning out to be highly accurate in many cases. I shouldn't say that. They're not always correct at all. Very often they are wrong. But from a percentage chance, if you were a gambler, the prediction markets tend to be far more accurate than any average person. And so that's concerning. That's where people are putting their money. This is a very interesting thing all around, guys. If you just kind of are curious about things going on in the world and you want to see how other people think they're going to go, this is a very interesting way of doing that. Being able to come in here and just see where other people are putting their money on these things is very, very interesting. It gives you a really good insight that takes you outside of your own personal mind, your own space, your own biases. And it really is cool. I'm not a fan of gambling, and so I'm not supporting any of this, but I do think there's something very, very interesting to be taken away from these markets because people are putting money on the line, and these prediction markets are very interesting. And so, look, Fed is going to maintain rate in March, currently sitting at a 92% probability. And so, 92% of all people with money on it believe that the Fed is going to maintain the rate in their Fed decision in March. Or we see 8% believe that it's going to be cut by 25 basis points. So, very, very interesting. Kind of gives you a little bit of a little bit of a heads up on where folks are thinking stuff's going to go. And so, like, look here, Powell out, Jerome Powell out as Fed chair. Yes is currently at a 6%, and so you bet on Jerome Powell being kicked out of being the Fed chair. You are going to win at a 15.64x. Is what you are going to win in the situation or in the case of Jerome Powell being forced out of the Fed chair. Very, very interesting. I have a feeling you're going to see a lot of these prediction markets in the mainstream media during this midterm election. And I think it's probably going to be the first major test case of whether prediction markets are more accurate than polls. Back in the Trump election, the prediction markets were more accurate than polls. I think that trend is going to maintain itself. All right, all right. I still have my XRP. Mimsy Wims says, I still have my XRP and so appreciate the zest and his top-notch intelligence and sharing with little old me and you. Well, thank you so much, Mimsy. And yes, hold on to it. Hold on to it. Then whenever they're trying to scare us out like this, you've got to know there's something else going on. And so they're not going to convince me to ditch any of it, no matter how low they can make this price go. Robert, hard question. You're 20 to 30 somethings. What does your gen think of what is going on with the issues like ICE or financial? How much do you guys learn in school about this nation's history? And well, I would fit at 33. I fit pretty squarely into the millennial generation. And so, Robert, I know in the millennial generation, you've seen a fairly dramatic shift back towards conservative values, specifically amongst millennial men. And that number has massively increased as opposed to what it was a decade ago. And a large part of that is just based around the financial system. It's economic that I feel has driven large portions of my generation, specifically men, to the right. The same thing appears to be occurring in my sister Lucy's generation. So she's going to end up being the younger generation. Their generation is at this point in time one of the most conservative generations at that age group that we have seen. But Robert, when it comes down to it, absolutely the brain rot in terms of a lot of the younger generations is what is leading towards a lot of the propagation of all of this ICE drama and everything else. But I really, when you look at all of it, Robert, look at the people that are out during a lot of these different protests, the folks that are getting arrested and everything else. It is not the groups that you would expect. It really isn't in many regards. And so the biggest concern for the generation, major takeaway, Robert, the biggest concern that I hear from people my age and younger, and in the millennial and in the Gen generation is financial. It is financial. It is primary concern, at least among absolutely the vast majority of the men in the generation. That is the number one concern. We don't believe we're going to ever own a house. We don't believe retirement is a possibility. You can look at, you don't have to trust me on this. You can just look at the numbers. The generations have been very candid in this. My generation does not believe that we really have a chance to afford a family. That's a very widely held belief. And that belief is even stronger amongst the younger generations. And so, Robert, it's a depressing landscape. It's a very, very depressing landscape amongst the younger generations. We do not believe that we have a chance financially. And I think in that regard that there is a massive, massive tide coming. We've already seen it. Look at the polling number. Look at the 2024 election. The demographic shift occurring in the United States is massive. And I believe that we are moving towards an impending tidal wave of the younger generations kind of having a freak out. But what are y'all hearing from grandkids, from friends, etc.? That's one where I feel like it all matters what circle you're in. And it's so different now. Even just 4 or 5 years, the generational difference is huge. Millennial versus the younger generation, we're a huge difference. We were a very tech savvy generation. We are nowhere close to as tech savvy as the younger generations because they grew up on an iPad. They grew up on a tablet. I was still using dial-up internet. I still remember having to, I couldn't use the internet because mom needed to make a phone call. And so a very short span of years massively changed an upbringing. I'm 1992. Essentially, anyone who was born 2000 to now, they grew up in a massively different world than I did. Massively different. And so it's so hard to really break it down. Technology and culture have been advancing so quickly. Generations are growing up in different worlds, just entirely different worlds. This youngest generation has never not been on social media. It's never not been the controlling way, the number one way that they interact with their peers. That was not the case just for my generation, one before. And so I don't know. That one is so interesting. I really want to have and Pops really wants to have this one at some point. We want to have a show on the Mark Z and just do one show where we have like me and Riley and Lucy and Pops and Pops' dad, Paul, come onto the show and try and literally get as many generations and their opinion on these different issues, because I think it would be very, very interesting for folks to see. Just to see that. I think it would be very, very cool conversation. And I think we need to have more as a society. I think generations need to start having a little bit of a sit down. A large complaint I have always had, and this was prior to Trump, but prior to Trump, I always had a massive complaint with the Republican Party because they never were speaking to my generation. And I really feel like since Trump, it is the first time in my life where the Republican Party has spoken to my generation. That was never the case during the Bush years, during the the McCain campaigns, the Mitt Romney campaigns. It was just never a case that my generation was being spoken to. Trump changed that. Trump changed that. And so I still think we are watching the repercussions of that occur. The conservative parties, the Republican Party had massively failed at reaching out to younger generations. And that's no longer the case. And I think it's going to bear fruit in the coming elections. I think you're going to see millennial men and the younger generation men are going to vote conservative. When it comes down to women in the millennial generation, and women across all the generations, I'm not willing to bet anything on where that vote's going. I expect it to continue going to the left. If I were to be honest, I expect it to continue to go to the left. And for the reason being, I don't know. I'd love for somebody to explain that to me. Yeah, Judy Barber, my daughter's in your generation. She owns her own home, drives a Mercedes, makes 110 grand a year, and single. I think it's what the individual chooses to do with their life. Absolutely, Judy. And no, that's awesome. That is awesome. And absolutely, the narrative that goes around may be the majority, but it doesn't mean that there aren't still people succeeding in, and there aren't still people succeeding in the generation. So that's awesome. That's awesome. I wonder, Judy, though, and I have a big question here for you, Judy. Have you ever asked her which one she values more? That house, that Mercedes, and that 110 grand, or that last question of being single? Because that's one of the number one things I hear in the generation. You can have one of the two. And so I'm curious on that one. Which one does she value more, Judy? I think that'd be a very interesting question for you to pose to her, because I think a lot of folks, and that's one that I have. That's a debate and a thought and something that I go through on a regular basis and have considered. Epicenter, Deborah, it varies who my children listen to. 5 children. If they hear from the Lord, they live with hope and peace. Reno, they are too busy dyeing their hair blue and green. That's why. Yeah. I think those hair dyes, those blue and green and funny colored hair dyes, I think those things bleach into the skull or something. I'm not certain. Judy Barber, hint, Zester. Oh, I'm picking it up now. I didn't catch that one at first, Judy. I'm picking up what you're putting down. That's awesome. But I think that a show about that would be really, really cool. I think it would be really, really cool. Health and honesty. She's not materialistic. Oh, that is awesome, Judy. That is too awesome. Sounds like you have got one awesome, awesome daughter. Only a little bit. Robert, in my mid-50s, peace, married or single? The crap filter is full. Absolutely, Robert. I know I'm that. I know I feel like I'm there. I am all run out of extra give-a-dangs. I am all out of them. All right, though, guys. I had a blast hanging out with y'all. Despite the nasty markets, I always look forward to getting to hang out and chat with everybody, see how everybody's doing, talk about what's going on. It's always a great time. And so I believe we will have our Whiskey and Wisdom this evening. I'm very excited to get to chat with Mike Barra. For those that did see, he was on the Y-Files last week. Massive podcast. I'm very, very excited to get to chat with the Barra on that one. And so if you don't come and join over for Whiskey and Wisdom this evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the original Mark Z, I will be back at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard on Friday. We'll be talking crypto and, well, who knows what else will be going on in the world by then. And so, love you guys. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you soon.